approach continues, landing and departing runways 19er. Read back, all hold short instruction. Advise on initial contact. Info.
65 ground.
Ernest Withers, here's a photographer who says about the pictures he takes, before he takes them, he has this series of thoughts. Does it hurt?
Or does it hurt anyone?
Right.
Yeah.
Is it true?
Yeah.
And what good does it do? But your photographs really remind people of
Where we are.
where we are, what we have, what we're doing to it. Asks a lot of questions. I like it. I really admire your work because so many artists, so many people, forget artists, are always asking, in spite of the fact that they're doing meaningful, constructive things, wonder what it is they're doing that has purpose and relevance, and perhaps is something you leave behind after you move on, leave this earth. And your photographs are such powerful advocates for the earth. I mean, I think you're to be commended for what you do. I mean, I really mean that. I don't know if I'm making sense to you.
No, that's nice. No,
I mean, you know, I hope you have a lot of pride in what you're doing, because I do. I look at your photographs.
I think you say that very well, because that's sort of the photographs that I really like and just feel strong to me, or images that do that.
No,
you know?
I mean, I'm always asking about what am I doing with my life? I mean, it's, and sometimes I don't have any answers. But when I look at your photographs, I mean, I've really had this conscious thought. I said, geez, Alex is really making a difference.
I just saw these, and I thought the two of you would really enjoy seeing them, the ones on the bottom.
Oh, yeah. Nice new downtown. Oh, the bridge in the front.
There are a lot of other images of downtown in here, believe me, but about 15 pictures of the parking lot.
I think it's wild.
It is wild.
It's just
out there.
so big.
And it's huge. I have an overview of it. I'm actually doing something on empty parking lots, so the church, being a good one.
Well, actually, here it is.
This is the empty parking lot.
From this perspective, because you can't see the surface parking lots.
It's
Right there. That's the perfect one. They're all on the other
Oh,
side.
yeah, there's a incredible amount of parking downtown.
There's a lot of it.
There were parking garages.
It's scary. Yeah.
I actually did. There's just like, there's a whole line of east-west blocks. That's all they are. It's, surface parking or parking
You know, we
garage.
just were looking at on that one of these boards at the downtown. It's like a third of the acreage is parking.
Surface
It's not
parking?
surface parking. It's parking.
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 And then a
That's
third-
garage and
Yeah,
surface
but a
parking.
third is streets and sidewalks and driveways and alleys.
So you're saying 2/3 of it is
Hard surface.
hard surface?
Related to the auto.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
in theory, the sidewalk is for us, right?
No, I believe that.
I can't believe it. And this is just a little bit of what you've done, right? I'm just amazed how much is covered here already. Oh, this is great.
photographing the metropolitan region, which it's on the Missouri River. And there are actually two cities. There's Kansas City, Kansas, and Kansas City, Missouri. And then there are a number of associated towns around it. It's a year-long project about preserving sense of region for the Kansas City area, because so many landscapes are being sort of homogenized by modern development. They all look the same. And so they're really coming up with strategies as to how to look at the landscape and sort of find ways to preserve the heritage, the natural features, and give it a real sense of region that you might sort of lose with the current development patterns.
Number 3726 Quebec, advise the next controller of your type aircraft and your landing destination. Contact Columbus Approach 125.905.
125.905, that will keep it going. Richmond Jumper 53 Bravo, back to you, descending out of 11.
Jump 53 Bravo, 9, good traffic observed, change advisor.
Skyline 3726 Quebec, Columbus approach control, Columbus altimeter 3010, say your destination.
Roger, Allegheny County.
Roger. To get on.
In Kansas City, obviously one of the unique things is the river really shapes a lot of the physical geography. And then the banks of the river, the floodplain along the side of the river, and then you have these dikes. You know, other than the Mississippi and some of the other major rivers that flood along floodplains, is very unique. And it offers a lot of opportunities for a linear park to have these dikes. You can, if you look very carefully on this one here, you can see a bicyclist bicycling along the top of the dike.
Roger, this is the north end of the building here, and you just pull up there, we'll pop you off. Okay.
When I started to fly, I always forgot I had wings out there. I thought it was like in a car. I almost drove the plane into a telephone, the wings. Fortunately, I had an instructor with me.
I learned how to fly just about 30 years ago, over 30 years ago now, it's hard to believe, when I was in graduate school studying architecture. And it's interesting, I was photographing before that. In college, I tried out for the Harvard Crimson when I was there, and failed to make the editorial board as a photographer, but I learned a great deal. I really wasn't formally trained in photography. But when I was doing that, I learned sort of some darkroom moves and general photographic principles. And then I went on to graduate school and started doing independent studies where I was using photography as part of the planning process. And at the time, I heard someone talking about how great it would be, how great it was actually. He was someone who did a lot of flying, how looking at landscapes, you could really see a broader picture and you could see over, you know, the next hill to what was beyond, and it seemed very appealing to me. And I had a friend whose uncle owned the largest flight school in the country down in Opelika, Florida. And it was the largest civilian flight school. It probably would have been a 9/11 training ground in later years. But anyway, so I went down there and learned how to fly in the summer. I figured if my friend knew how to fly, I'd gone flying with him, and I couldn't believe, how amazing it was. I went once, we rented a plane from in LA and flew up to Santa Barbara and back, and I just couldn't believe it. It was amazing, and this was my, as I would lovingly say, my dumb schmuck friend that could fly a plane. So I learned how to fly in the summer. It was pretty good, and I came back and sort of stumbled around trying to figure out how to do aerial photography, shooting while I was flying. And after graduating from architecture school, I traveled for a year. I went down through South America photographing on the ground, and I really started thinking myself more as a photographer than someone who's going to pursue architecture. Though I came back and practiced for a half a year and decided that wasn't what I wanted to do, and I tried to figure out how to build a career doing aerial photography, which was very slow going. For about 5 years, I was working in restaurants and drove a cab for a while, and tried to put together enough money to go out and fly and try to find clients to fly for.
Roger. Allegheny County.
Roger. .95 to get on top of it.
Expect we'd like to take climb to 9.5.
26 Quebec, that's approved.
Roger. Yes, sir, we're on topic 10. Top seem to be probably about 9 to 9,500 up here.
Thank you. And Cessna 26 Quebec, I got a citation.
21 right, turn to the south, group.
Columbus right now.
21 right, turn.
At 10,000, he's on top, he's estimated 95.
Cessna 36 Quebec, turn left at the backwards diagonal, head to your left there, sir.
Special video 77, Columbus Control, altimeter 301.
You know the one you're
in.
Great! What I find is it's very much like fishing. You've got to be out there a lot to find and get things that you want. And so I don't have a chaperone with me, and so I'm really free to do whatever I want to do. And so if I see something that really catches my eye, and I'll start photographing that. So it's tremendous to be either doing a cross-country flight or just see something over your shoulder that's fantastic that you can capture for yourself. The cost of flying being what it is, between 100 and 120 an hour, and you're out for 4 or 5 hours at a time, you really want to be productive with that time. You want to be doing something. So I think it's very good to have a really broad agenda of things you want to shoot. And I collect a lot of things that not necessarily are that important, but when you build them as a body of work together, they start becoming important and meaningful.
I didn't
Wing
put,
my
I didn't,
plane and scar myself.
you don't have a necktie, but then I didn't button these down so we're even.
You do all your own piloting.
Yeah, I do.
Isn't that how can you do both at the same time?
Well, your work is beautiful. I've done aerial photography, but you know how
Oh, really?
sitting in a plane
Yeah.
and just photographing. So I did a lot of stuff like that. You can't say that it had any standards to it, but it was part of my interest. It was like seeing urban plans active. You know,
Oh, yeah.
when you look out from the air and you actually see the cars that you then document as volumes of traffic and things like that.
Oh, it's a perfect model, seeing it from the air. You know,
Yes.
it's a living
You know, there's a sort of irony in my admiration for what you're doing, the combination of art and content that's connected there, learning so much, as you say, from pattern that is so significant. It is also true that one of my big complaints about architecture today is that it is designed essentially to be seen from the air, like sculpture is seen in a gallery.
Yes.
When you look sort of down on it below you. So in one way, I hate the idea of air views from that standpoint, but that's a very different standpoint. But it seems to me that this combination of pattern and content, you learn so much from it, and it's still extremely aesthetic. And
Well, let me ask, because life goes by very quickly. I would imagine you see something and you take it, and then only later you work out what the meaning was and what made you intuitively take it.
see, he's a pilot at the same time.
I think you're right. There are often things that you take and you intuitively are drawn to
Yes.
it. You know, you feel
Yes.
it, and then a lot of it you understand
Later. But like Cartier-Bresson, he did a lot of he'd set himself up in such a way where he intuited or he knew something was going to happen. And then he just sat and waited, and when it did, he clicked. And I have a feeling that in aerial photography of your kind, you really have to do that too.
Yeah, especially if you're
It
doing
is,
it.
I think it works that way quite a bit, but it's very interesting. A lot of times when I'm flying, I'll see something, and usually the perspective that I see it from right at that instance is the, you know, that's the shot. Whereas,
the shot
you
you
go
want.
back and you circle around, it doesn't really work out.
Yes.
Except for, you know, when you really see it from that
But I know my experience was, I'm taking it, the thing's going, the damn thing's behind a wing, you know.
No, that's true. It happens fast.
Do you practice as an architect as well as do all this?
No.
You don't?
No, but I've worked with lots of architects, which is really fun, you know.
And how do you do when the plane, and you keep the plane from diving while you're taking a picture?
Well, the plane just you trim it up. It doesn't have an autopilot, but it's trimmed. And it will just fly fairly straight level. You just change the trim with your power, you know, if you're slowing down.
In other words, it's easier than if you were driving a car.
Oh, Mike, you know, I tried to take a picture in a parking lot, and it's dangerous, you know, driving a car. So it's pretty free. You just sit there, and I have my feet on the rudders, and the window opens and stays open. You just take it, and you can, you know, circle around. So it's the fun. It's actually a big part of the fun of it is just the fact that you can control where you are and set yourself up. You know, the flying is
Must be wonderful. Yeah.
So integral to taking
what
pictures.
Fun you must have.
Well, it's fun for most of the time.
A lot of work.
You know, it's like everything else, you know, it's a lot of work too.
You photographed 𝕿𝕝𝕟𝕠 from above.
I was in Orlando and I saw the building and just loved it. It was fantastic. It's so much of what I take, you know, I just discover on, and I think I have the French fry. I know I have the French fry side. I love that.
The look there.
I will have to send you a copy of this photograph. It's really fun.
I would love
really
it.
fun.
McDonald's.
Oh, I just came across it. I was actually so surprised, but it was just, I thought it was fantastic, because usually I don't like things like that, but it was just so over the top. You know, it was so much. It was great. And so I actually photographed this, and I have a lot more, maybe. I'll find the page where I shoot this. You can, 6917. 6917. It really, I was just like amazed. 6917. 6917. 6917. 15. I only took one? I can't believe it. I just took one? I just took one. It looks like I just took one. I would have thought I'd taken more. I remember circling around it because I thought it was very fantastic. I was probably half disgusted that I was drawing McDonald's. Like, I think that's the only one I took. That's great. At least I took one. Very good, Alex. That's the only one I have. Wow. I fly about 250 hours a year, and it's really spurty. Some weeks I'll fly 35 hours in a 7-day period. Then I'll go weeks at a time without flying. And during the summer, I'm probably up 10, 15 hours a week anyway, probably more. One of the great things about flying in small planes is you can land in these small airports way out in the country where people have very local accents. The food is special to that area. The housing and just the general feel is very indigenous, whereas very much unlike the big urban airports. And the people are very friendly. They'll lend you their cars. You can go into town, and they're a terrific source of local information. Often you can find out things about agriculture or forestry or what's just happening in the immediate area.
Using aerial photographs, I use them in classes, is that from the vantage point of the air, you can see the patterns of natural processes at work, or political and economic processes also. But I'll never forget the image of yours which I use in lectures all the time. It was in the Taking Measures, I think. You're looking down on fields, and you see the different soil patterns, and you can see the old drainage patterns underneath the field. The fields are all rectilinear. Right. But underneath that, you see these dark spots that are like traceries of the old floodplains that were there, but kind of filled over and plowed over. Sure. So you see these layers of landscape that, if you're walking on the ground,
you never see it.
It's a lot harder. You can see it. But for students, if I show them a photograph that I've taken on the ground, say, I have to show them several photographs in order to get like the transect, whereas when they see the aerial shot, they can see the whole pattern together. And so then when I usually use it in conjunction with photographs taken on the ground, so they can make that connection to what they would actually see walking around instead of flying over the ground.
Warrior call Pittsburgh, I'm not receiving any transmissions.
Rover 3726 Quebec, advise the next controller of your type aircraft and your landing destination. Contact Columbus Approach 125.905.
Advisories 26Q? Okay, thank you. Well, Warrior call Pittsburgh, if you're looking for advisories, I can't make out your radio.
Number 5 Bravo, back. Jump 5 Bravo, negative traffic observed, change advice.
November, let me know when you want to start towards Allegheny County. I'll just give them a heads up. Right now from the point. Okay, and you're going to turn towards county shortly? We're going to continue on south.
Airline 3726, Quebec, Columbus Approach Control.
I'll set before you head back towards Allegheny. We're going to continue on south. We're going to get down to the bridge here. 47 November, right? 2585, Washington County Airport. Washington County Airport information is available on 1.42.
26 Quebec, that's approved.
Yes, sir, we're on topic. Top seem to be probably about 9 to 9,500.
I'm English, and so I had lived in America for about 4 or 5 years. I had seen Alex's photographs in a gallery exhibition somewhere. And I decided that in order to learn about the American landscape, I really need to fly across it, because I just don't have the time to drive across it. And so I wrote a grant proposal to the National Endowment for the Arts to fund such a research trip, and asked Alex, and together we collaborated. And we flew some parts together, and other parts I drove more comfortably on the ground. Well, I had terrible air sickness with Alex, partly because he tends to do things without you knowing. So you're a passenger in the aeroplane, and all of a sudden it will just bank over like this. And he'll be hanging out of the window with his camera, and it's just very, very disturbing because you have no control or power.
I would hate to be a passenger of my own plane. I would be...
You have no capacity to anticipate what's coming and to correct anything that might go wrong. Yeah. So you're really helpless. And that makes me feel quite anxious. So I preferred being on the ground. So that's how it started. And then, of course, the country is so big, it's very difficult to decide what to do and what not to do. And so we tried to think of things, and we canvassed our friends around the country for sites that had striking geometries, because we were really interested in the marks of man upon the landscape. We weren't so interested in natural landscapes, and we decided to kind of bypass cities and look more at fringe and rural and development landscapes.
We got the cemetery plot out here.
Now, the other thing we were interested in is to try and understand why these beautiful geometries that he would capture in photographs, why they are the way they are. Because we're both interested in design and planning, and we wanted to try and explain to people that form and geometry is not simply an issue of artistic taste or style, but is actually something that can have some utility and some function and some logic to it. And we actually found, the more we researched these different geometries, that there's actually a very sophisticated logic behind them. Even when you look at very curvilinear field patterns, where the farmer is ploughing and cross-ploughing and doing this, that, and the other on his field, it produces a beautiful field texture and color. But there's actually a real logic to what the farmer's trying to do with soil erosion, wind erosion, and water retention, and all of these things. So what we were able to discern, and what we tried to present in the book, is an understanding of geometry and space in America as, in a sense, always being an expression of its environmental and programmatic conditions. So on the one hand, to learn about all these very powerful spatial and textural geometries in America, and to learn that there's a logic behind their deployment is something that was lesson number one. Lesson number two was just the capacity I think I now have, that was helped greatly through this study, to think across all scales. So to try and understand a site that we're looking at, not only in relationship to its immediate surroundings, but in relationship to its larger regional, if not national, if not global dimensions. Because what you learn flying around the country, and Alex will tell you this too, is that differences are very pronounced. So what Alex's photographs reveal is that things that we take as being very ubiquitous and monotonous and simplistic, including not only the grid but shopping malls, parking lots, traffic intersections, freeway interchanges, derelict parcels of land, all of these things that we generally think of as being all of the same, his photographs reveal that there's a lot of inherent difference and richness to them. I think his understanding of geometry comes from his architecture training. His better photographs definitely show the eye of somebody who understands geometry.
Clear! Philadelphia Clarence Skyline 3036, back with the Bedford map, VFR, 3V, Philly International Ground, Skyline 3026, Quebec, Atlantic Aviation, ready to taxi.
And Cessna 26 Quebec, I got a citation jet 30 miles northeast of Columbus right now. He says at 10,000, he's on top. He's estimating the top's between 9 and 95.
Columbus approach hotel BP 877, 10.7, 6,000 feet, 240, heading Fox.
Air Shuttle 5877, Columbus approach control. Altimeter is 3010. Which runway you need?
28 left, if you so.
5877 left. Expect a visual approach for runway 28 left. And you can contact Columbus approach now at 118.2.
Repeat intimidating business.
339, just going to maintain 5,000.
Columbus approach, Cessna 12 Bravo Charlie with you at 5,000.
Cessna 12 Bravo Charlie, Columbus approach, reset transponder, squawk 0735.
0735, 12 Bravo Charlie.
November 12 Bravo Charlie, this will be vectors for the visual approach, runway 27 left, Datus Mike.
Need to put on our bathing suits. What?
Take a look at this slide and take a guess about what the density of this is. It's 23. How many people were higher than that? How many people were lower than that? Okay, how about this one? This is 22. Very different type of environments, but a very similar density. So this project is really about trying to bridge that gap between what's measured and what's perceived, and to give people some mental images so that they can start assigning some images to these different numbers. So this is a visual analysis, and we're using aerial photograph to look at overall form, physical form and urban form. Aerial photography is great because you're way up high, you can see everything, how it comes together, how it doesn't come together. And it's a little bit more, it provides some more objectivity than when you're on the ground and you can see everything in much greater detail.
But we really sort of narrowed it down to 4 basic types. You have your vertical image looking straight down. Just quickly going through the vertical image gives you a lot of information as far as the layout for doing a quantitative analysis. It's very accurate for measuring distances or areas within it. And you can see very clearly the spatial relationship. This is in Tyson's Corner, Virginia, 1 unit an acre. This is looking at the neighborhood view. You get a better sense of the lawns, the houses' relationship to the road, and you really get a sense of place with the oblique angle that you don't get with the vertical angle. And then coming in closer, looking at the same area at a block scale, you're starting to see details in the house, how the sidewalks, the pathways to the house, and just a general configuration that you don't get at the neighborhood scale. And then what we call really a context view is looking out towards the horizon and seeing the neighborhood in question in its sort of larger context. 12.3 units an acre. This is in Columbus, New Jersey. the context shot, the plan view, and coming in tight, looking at the individual units.
So our purpose was to catalog these sites and not to draw conclusions about which ones are preferable. We do have some observations after looking at lots and lots of these slides and doing the research. And the first is sort of what we expected in the beginning. What we knew going into this, but it was reinforced, that density is a relative term. It's really kind of, the numbers are almost meaningless. And from an aesthetic or aesthetic perspective, it's a density number is irrelevant in revealing physical characteristics. Another observation is that context really, really matters. If you show someone a slide and say, you know, this is a certain density, it doesn't really mean much unless you put it in context. What exists outside the camera frame is the question. Is this house surrounded by woods and rolling meadows, or is it in a very large development of houses? And the question is always, what's the setting that the neighborhood exists in?
I have dreams sometimes that I'm flying through trees like birds. It's very scary. And sometimes I have dreams that I'm going down a road. I'm flying way, way, way too low, and I'm down between the buildings. And I get to the end of the street, and there's no room to turn around in the plane, and I wake up.
Early on, when I was working with Alex's work, Charles 𝔻𝕝, who's quite a well-known architect in the United States, was really, really interested in Alex's work, and he purchased a lot of your prints for installing in various, buildings that he had done. Yep, and one of the clients that he got Alex's work for was Steven Spielberg. I didn't actually sell the work to Spielberg. Charles 𝔻𝕝 did. Charles designed the apartment, and he selected Alex's work to go into the apartment. Now, I did speak to Spielberg later. I ran into him outside of Christie's, outside of an auction house.
Oh, is that right?
And I just went up and introduced myself and said, "Hi, I'm Yancey Richardson. You own one of my artists' work." And, it was my big opportunity to talk to Spielberg. So
that was great.
Yeah,
huh?
so I just chatted him up the whole way. He was very nice, very nice.
That's Yancey.
Yeah, but there was something about, I think the eye to design and composition and focus that 𝔻𝕝 really responded to. And Alex's work really deals with patterns in the landscape that are a result of contemporary life and more recent land use. I mean, when I say land, I don't just mean I don't mean necessarily undeveloped land. I mean, to me, parking lots are, and urban sprawl are also the land. And there's so much interest now amongst photographers who are also in the fine art world, philosophically, and conceptually, they're interested in these fringe areas from where the urban edge meets the less developed edge, and what's going on there, and how do we describe those places, and are they a place, and if it's a place, what's it called?
Hey, we're 3026, go back.
Wind 310 at 5. Temperature 18.15. Altimeter 3006.
Typical retail strip, brand new with the big box stores here, the Walmarts, Home Depot, and then just a closer in view sort of about this idea of the consumerism and, you know, waiting in line and the traffic and everything. A large regional shopping mall built way out in the middle of nowhere to take advantage of, you know, dirt cheap property values. So the trade-off there is you expect all your clients, you know, for the cheap prices to get in their car and drive 30 miles. And then this is sort of this idea of disguising the big box store. This is probably a Christmas tree store. You know, it's basically a big box store. It's this idea of getting back to the village mentality. You can see this is another one, a regional shopping mall, but again, sort of trying to disguise itself as some kind of village or something. It's kind of comical. And then Main Street is another theme that's sort of coming back as a value that we all cherish. So we have this Main Street, and if you look where it is, I mean, it's just ludicrous. It's in the middle of the mall. And when you come across these things, I mean, I'm just laughing to myself. I cannot believe some of the stuff is going on. I mean, but on the other hand, it's really pathetic too. This, you know, this sort of wasteland of, you know, everyone that lives around here, you can't do a thing without getting in the car to, you know, go to school, even visit friends.
Whenever you key up or all the time? Almost all the time, yeah. I'll stick with that. I'm glad you brought it back. Straight ahead there, Alex. Okay, good. Yeah, I got it. Okay, I got, you want me to do a right 360 or a left? Well, to get to a left, let me do the turn and you follow me.
I'm in total caffeine right now.
I think so. Well, the worst time was the time I was bringing your plane back and the oil line eruption. Filled the camera case up with oil.
Right.
I was horrified. Oh no, how could this happen?
Mike was bringing my plane back after he worked on it. I left my cameras in the plane, which I probably shouldn't have. But
He usually takes them out before I take the airplane, just for my convenience.
So I left them in there, and Mike's flying the plane back, and underneath the dashboard, you call it the dashboard? What do you call it?
Instrument panel.
Instrument panel. And an oil hose breaks, and it squirts oil all over the cameras. You weren't worried at all about
I wasn't worried about the plane. I was worried about the cameras.
I know. I would have been.
I figured I had enough oil to get back to the airport. That was
Yeah.
my problem. You know, I'm looking, I'm pulling these cameras out and oil's dripping off. And I'm like, oh, no, these are expensive.
I think we lost them.
I think you lost. You might
I
have
lost
lost
one.
one.
I lost the camera body. Yeah.
Well, he flies without looking. That's one thing. He looks through a camera. It's kind of weird looking out the side window, going in circles all day long. But as far as the airplane, no, the airplane doesn't know what he's doing. It just keeps running. I can't explain the style, but you know, it's definitely yours. It's that kind of everything is. There's a certain. When you look at the photograph, you know what it is you were thinking, kind of when you took the picture. This is what I'm looking at, or these lines, or something. You know, if you held the picture 10 feet away, you can see what Alex was looking at, and then you bring the picture up closer, you can see the details of everything that you didn't see when you flew by.
When the film comes back, I'll see a lot of things that I didn't see when I took the picture, which is fun.
Yeah.
It really is, you know.
Either that or you let them age a while. They always look better when you go back and look at them.
I think that's true. Do you do that too? Go back and look at the film that you take and you say, oh, that's not as bad as I thought, you know? It looks...
6026 Quebec.
Wind 310 at 5. Temperature 18.15. Altimeter 3006. Visual approach is in use. Landing and departing runways 19er. Read back all hold short instructions. Advise on initial contact.
65 ground.